Yeah. But here we are, and I'm
Fantastic.
so
Oh,
happy to
thank
talk
you
with you.
so much, Lynn. It's so great to actually finally talk to you. I'm so excited. I've got so many questions.
Same
And
here.
congratulations on this wonderful book. I read it from cover to cover in about 2 days, and I was just beyond excited and delighted by it. Basically, you really captured the essence of what Eve was about, and at times it really felt like you were. It was actually I was reading Eve's words. Obviously, Eve was very close to me, and I knew her very well, and it was actually very moving and very emotional to hear. It was like I was hearing Eve's voice in my head. So
That's the best compliment ever. I mean, honestly, Michael, that means everything to me. I can't believe how happy I am about that. It's just it's great. Um, because you know, uh, my first question is going to be, um, what was she like? I mean, I have this sense of her. I lived in her skin for these several years, and that's why I had written to you about how I was so afraid of crying because I feel so emotional. It's really hard being someone else. I was her and Marilyn, and like I've never been that involved for a book before. But these two women, I just understood them, and they were there speaking to me, which I hope don't mean to sound too crazy, but I could
no.
just feel them. And you know what helped? I think how to feel them is um, Eve's photographs. It
Mm,
wasn't just reading her words was really important for me, but seeing her photographs. And I didn't realize this to the end of the book, but looking at her photographs says as much about her as it does about her subjects.
yes.
Nobody does. I know her photos anywhere because people just give her this really honest part of themselves.
Yes, exactly. And it's really wonderful that you kind of tie that in. I won't give away too much, but you kind of tie that in towards the end of the book about what her photographs say about who she was as a person, which I think is absolutely beautiful. That bit actually made me cry at the very end, where I can't say exactly what happens, but it's a beautiful ending that really kind of comes full circle and it brings it back to like how Eve became, Eve portrayed herself through her photographs even
Exactly.
without even knowing about it. And it's a and yeah, it's a really beautiful observation that you've made, and one of the many things that made me really realize that you really got into under her skin and understood who she was. And I think I likened it to a bit like a method actor who kind of inhabits a character, and it really seemed like you did that. And So yeah, I really want to. I'd love to kind of talk a bit more about who Eve was, but I want to kind of start by just framing for people who don't know what the book is about. Could you just kind of just give an overview of the book and describe it to someone who's never heard of it?
Okay. Well, I think the best way to start about it is just how I found the book, or found that I could write this book. I've always wanted to write about Marilyn Monroe since I was as long as I could write, and I've been writing a long time. Anyhow, but I couldn't find a way in. I needed a different way in, something unique, because there's so many books about her. And I thought, I'll do a book from her photographer's point of view. Surely there are a lot of women, because I wanted it to be a woman, a lot of women who photographed her. There wasn't. It
Mm,
was just Eve. Now, I think there's been a few other photos that were taken of her, but I don't know if there's anyone else that Marilyn actually requested, another woman. And Marilyn, the shoots that are in her book about Marilyn Monroe are, I think Marilyn requested all those shoots. This is all on Marilyn's part. She wanted Eve. And um, as I got to writing, I thought this will be a really great book. Um, but one of the questions was, why did she choose Eve? She chose Eve.
mm,
She did. And I wonder if that haunted Eve a little bit. But I'm kind of getting away from about the book. Anyhow, the book is about, they, at Marilyn's instigation, they did photo shoots together. And it was kind of a rocky relationship at first. And, like all friendships, they take a while to develop, and theirs might have been even trickier because Marilyn was different. I call her a feral child, and I truly mean that and believe it. She raised herself. She might as well have been raised by wolves because she had to raise herself, in and out of all those foster homes and the orphanage. She married at 16 just simply so she wouldn't have to go back in the orphanage. So, she was just an outsider, a real misfit because she, had no upbringing. She brought up herself. And anyhow, so I think she approached people sometimes really awkwardly, and definitely in Eve's case, she approached her like, let's do a business deal, think what I could do for you. You photographed me, think what I could do for you, as opposed to, just trying to befriend her. It had to always be a business deal. I don't think Marilyn believed that she was worthy of just pure friendship for herself. It had to be what the transaction was. So anyhow, they had their relationship and their work. Each session that I ended up basing my book around, I just based my book action wise a lot on your book. I say your. It's
Yeah.
Eve Arnold Estate has republished this. This is the original though, and this is what I had. This is the first printing
Yeah.
of it. So anyhow, I just kind of follow those shoots, which got more and more personal. They got very involved in each other's lives. So the book is about, them figuring out their own lives because they're both ambitious uh, for different reasons. I think Eve was ambitious because she just had this huge curiosity and wanted to see unseen people and events and show those to people.
Mhm.
That's her mission,
Yes.
right?
Totally.
Yes. And Marilyn's was, honestly, I think Marilyn's was to be loved because
Mm.
she never had any love. It's so funny. Her famous song is "I Want to Be Loved by You."
Mm.
That's her life song. so here's these two coming together, and they had these needs. They each had their needs, and they ended up having this beautiful relationship that changed their lives.
Mm.
And that's what the book's about.
Mm. And I love how at the beginning you really capture really well Eve's reluctance because well initially she was kind of really impressed by this, the famous story about how Monroe said if you could do that with Dietrich, can you imagine what you could do with me? And he
Right.
describes that as she loved that kind of energy and the kind of bravado. But I think also that there was you quite rightly picked up on this kind of initial reluctance because Eve saw herself as a serious photojournalist, and and yet something kept kind of calling her back to Marilyn. Like initially she was not sure if she wanted to work with her, but there was something magnetic about her personality that she kept being drawn back to. And
Mm-hmm.
you really captured that. So you kind of captured the nuances. It wasn't just oh yes, yeah. He was like, yep, let's work together right from the beginning. There was this kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on? I'm not really sure if this is my path. And then suddenly she the more she kind of sees her and the more she interacts with her, she can't help but become friends with her.
Mm-hmm. You know, do you recall her talking about Marilyn?
Yes, on several occasions. Yeah. Why?
I just, I got from, I read everything I could possibly lay my hands on that Eve wrote about Marilyn and photography. I have all her books. And, and I also watched interviews. And it sort of came through that Eve, the relationship was a lot. Marilyn demanded a lot. Marilyn needed a lot.
Mm.
And I think it frightened Eve. She didn't know, you
Mm.
know, I don't know if frightened's the right word because she doesn't seem like the type that gets scared of anything. But it just befuddled her perhaps
Mm.
and made her, to me, she seemed uncertain of what her role should be in Marilyn's life. And
Mm.
am I um, mistaking? I don't know. There's a lot of years that Eve doesn't talk about their personal life, but it sounds like for a while there they got very personally involved. You know, like they did a lot of things together for a while.
Mm.
So I'm wondering, it's just you know, how she felt about her relationship. If she talked to you about that,
She
about her.
did. Yeah, yeah. I mean, she talked to me privately a number of times, and she always talked with great kind of fondness, almost like she was like a daughter figure to her. It felt like she kind of almost adopted her as a daughter. Uh,
And you know, Marilyn would have loved that.
yes, of
Really,
course,
she wanted a mother badly. So yeah.
exactly. Um, but she also, because she also I can't remember the exact words she used, but she did describe to me how initially there was this kind of initial reluctance. She wasn't sure, and I wondered like how you picked up on that, because I don't know if it's written anywhere or if she talked about it. And there's a few incidences like that where you kind of almost read her mind or read between the lines. Can you explain a bit about how you kind of filled in the gaps of where there wasn't stuff written about it? Because you did an incredible job of it, however you did it.
You know, I can't remember if it's in retrospect, you know,
Yeah.
her book in retrospect, that actually says as much as the her Marilyn Monroe book. Um, I think I got it there, and also hearing interviews that I think one interview she even said um, Marilyn. Did she say she wanted a mother and I didn't know if I could be her mother? She might have even said something quite like that
Wow.
in an interview. I could just I wish I could. I should show you the pages, but I think it's more in in retrospect than in her Marilyn Monroe book, and then also in interviews where I could just tell the reluctance. Um, and I also kind of felt that she worried about being known just simply as Marilyn's photographer. She was so successful at capturing Marilyn, and she did for Marilyn what she did, well, for Marlene Dietrich, which got the whole thing started. You know, people really uh, enjoyed her photos
Mhm.
um, of Marilyn.
Where did you get that from? Because she did say that to me. Because she she loved working with Marilyn, and her Monroe images are some of her most celebrated and some of my favorite. And yet she did say to me, I don't want this to overshadow the rest of my work. But it's beautiful that you kind of picked up on that as well. And there's several other incidents where you kind of really picked up on things that nobody else has kind of either delved deeply enough or had the emotional intelligence to kind of understand the nuances.
Yeah, I wish I could point out exactly, but I really do feel like it's in more in retrospect than that. And there's some in Maryland, and then some of the interviews.
Mm.
And yes, I could feel the ambivalence and the love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to think of which of the books. I think it is in retrospect that she said the lines about we were brilliant together. You know, I'm going to paraphrase. We sparked off each other. We, I couldn't tell where one of us began and the other ended in these sessions. They just kind of brought out themselves. And then she said we were brilliant together.
Mm.
And that's where I got my title, of course.
Mhm.
Um, so yes, that was, and I think she actually said in some interviews that thing too. So you could see, you know, Marilyn was a different kind of friend, you know, a lot, as they say. But that Eve, one thing that just touched my heart is that Eve did say several places she never found anybody that sparked her like that
Yeah,
again.
exactly. Yeah, there was this chemistry that happened between the two of them whenever they got together,
Yeah.
and Eve loved the way that Monroe was always coming with new scenarios, and she described, I think, in retrospect, like how she'd never met anyone like that who could kind of come up with different expressions and kind of show herself a different aspects of her personality from one moment to the next, which I think Eve found incredibly exciting, because one of Eve's main missions was to kind of show things about people that you wouldn't otherwise have seen, which is another, you picked up exactly what was her kind of driving motivation for a lot of her work. So I think to not only was Monroe a dear friend, because they clearly had this bond, and she talked about how they bonded over being neophytes. They were both kind of relatively early on in their careers and kind of finding their way.
That's
And
true.
as you also kind of point, but kind of but it's beautiful the way you kind of embellish on that, and the things that I didn't even think about, which is the fact that they both suffered miscarriages, and I think it's beautiful the way that you kind of talk about how they must have bonded over their shared experiences of that, and this is something that I'd never even thought about. But it's obvious, it's clear that would have, those kind of conversations would have happened between them. And it's those little details, I think, that really kind of make this book very special, because it kind of really brings to life in a whole new way the stories that I've grown up with. That kept kind of occurring to me, that I'd read stories and I'm like, I've heard Eve told that story, and I've heard her read, I've read her write about it, but it's just hit me in a whole new way. And it was almost like I was rediscovering parts of Eve's life that I hadn't really fully appreciated. That was one of the really incredible things about the book.
That must have really felt bizarre
Yeah.
to be reading about your grandmother as a subject in a novel, but yet I feel like with novels you can get closer to the truth than biography. Their biographies, they have to be dry, because the biographer is just trying to lay out this picture, but there's no interpretation, or I shouldn't say no, but there's not as much interpretation. And I was looking for a story, that what were these two women saying to all of us? What was their relationship saying to all of us?
Yeah. Can you talk more about that? I want to hear you talk more about that, because that's a really fascinating aspect of the book.
Uh, uh, like what aspect?
Well, it felt like that there was a lot of kind of hidden, really important kind of stories that came through, that they were telling us. And one, for example, was kind of the backdrop of 1950s America, and both of them trying to make it as women in a predominantly male profession. And that was another kind of aspect to the kind of shared bond. And I felt that's obviously that's something that was happening then, but it's also something that's still relevant. And that's another kind of thing that's wonderful about Eve's work, is that the things that she photographed and the things that were fascinating to her are still relevant in today's world. They haven't gone away.
Yes, sadly, a lot of them have not gone away because she caught a lot of you know Eve did so much more. This, I think a lot of this audience knows, but Eve did so much more than just Marilyn. She was a photojournalist and really had a caught the pulse of the times. So she was really active in photographing things going on in the civil rights movement, and she understood about women's. I have her having a conversation with Marilyn, but I believe Marilyn actually said this to her. It might be in the In Retrospect Again book, but about how Marilyn said it's a women's world, it's a woman's world, and men are only living in it,
Yeah,
which to- totally turns upside down how it really was at that time.
yeah, exactly.
So
And
yes,
well, that's another really beautiful aspect of the book, because you obviously done an equal amount of research into Monroe's life, and just her focus, her astuteness, her brilliance. I mean, and she was brilliant, and she's only now just getting the credit for the agency and the intelligence and what it was that it took to create Marilyn Monroe. And it's crazy that up until relatively recently, she was still branded as this dumb blonde. So that's another beautiful part of this book, that you're kind of shining light on those aspects of herself that made her brilliant.
yes, and what a joy that is to show how extraordinary she was. And back to Eve's photographs, you can see that. That's what's so good about Eve's photographs of Marilyn. You see this, you can see that she's more of a regular person. Eve remarked several times about she's just kind of plump, and she's got a flat face, and she's not really all that much to look at, but she just kind of zooms out of the camera, at her viewer. She's able to project this this gorgeous being, who a lot of times it's whoever you want that gorgeous being to be, that's who she'd project. And
Mm,
that's why her photographs look so different for different photographers. She would read what those men wanted and project that.
yeah.
Sometimes it'd be a little, lost girl. Sometimes it would be, the siren. It's just whatever people wanted.
Mm,
And so she, for Eve, she just projected herself. And so, what my favorite thing about Eve's photos are the ones of Marilyn smiling.
mm,
There's none of that come on stuff. They're just big teeth.
mm.
And she looks so young. She
Yeah.
looks so young in Eve's photos, younger than she does anywhere else. Even makeup or not, it doesn't matter. And it's that big smile, that big genuine smile.
Mm,
That that is that's Norma Jean.
yeah.
And that's what was so beautiful about those two. I mean, finally Norma Jean could come out.
Mm,
And
mm.
I think that's one of the reasons she chose um, Eve, is because she really wanted to know Norma Jean. How could she possibly know her? She's the most fragmented person, with her upbringing. And here's this person who's known, this photographer known for bringing out the real person. I really, I think that's one of the things that attracted her to Eve.
Yes.
And I
Well,
saw a comment here. Somebody asked how they met,
mhm,
and I just want to address that real quickly.
mhm,
That they met. They asked if they met at the art actor studio. No, they did go to the actor studio together, but that was long into their relationship. They met at a party that John Huston held in New York at the 21 Club, and Marilyn went out of her way to introduce herself to Eve. And she talked about Eve's photos of Marlena Dietrich, because Eve had done something really revolutionary with Marlena Dietrich, which was just simply photograph her outside of a studio with natural light, with no retouching.
mm,
And, Marlena looked really intriguing. She was not the studio Marlena. She was this person, the strong woman. And so people kind of went crazy over Eve's photos about Marlena, and Marilyn wanted a piece of that. As she said, which we had said earlier, she said, uh, think think what Marlena did for you. And she's kind of turning it on its head, because Marlena did help Eve's career, because
mm.
she was just starting out too, as you had pointed out earlier. And she said, I just think what I could do for you,
Yes, that's so true. But I've never quite fully understood the double meaning, that because the way Eve told it was, she said, if you could do that with Marlena, could you imagine what you could do with me? But at the same time, she was offering Eve, can you imagine what I could do for you? And
Exactly.
that aspect, like you're kind of shining lights on bits that I hadn't fully appreciated. There was a carrot she was dangling as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of you're going to see things differently, be surprised about it, because you're so close to Eve. I don't have that advantage of growing up with her. And I had mentioned that earlier, and we didn't get into it. What
Yeah,
was it
yeah.
like growing up with Eve?
But this is a good moment to talk about that, actually, because hold on a second, I just want to. That's right. Because actually, it really relates to what you were talking about, to do with that's the reason that Monroe picked her. It's because she was known for getting to the real person behind the persona.
Hmm.
And I think the reason was, as you said earlier, was because of her curiosity. She had this genuine curiosity. She wanted to know about people, and when you were with her, that really became evident. So I kind of when I was about 12 years old, I moved to London, and from Manchester in the UK, and she was living in London, and I would most weekends I would go into her house. We go out to a movie or we go to the theater, and we'd always end up around her kitchen table, and we'd talk, and she was just the best listener. she was probably the best listener of anyone I know. You would talk about what's and she would make you feel comfortable to talk about what was really going on in your life. And I would share like genuine things about what what was really on my mind to do with challenges with my parents, or what was going on at school, girlfriend, anything like that. Because she never gave a judgment. Like most people, normally when you're having a conversation, or a lot of the time when you're having a conversation, it feels like the person is waiting to say the next thing. And Eve was always gave total attention and focus. She listened with her whole being, and she never kind of, when you finish, she never kind of made a judgment or give advice. Sometimes she would offer words of wisdom or a story from her past that kind of helped to shed light on that, or something that you could take away, because she had amazing stories and amazing wisdom.
I
But
bet.
always came from this kind of genuine care and curiosity and desire to really understand you. And it felt like there was this kind of light of kind of awareness that was just kind of shining on you, and it allowed you to just be yourself. And I think I learned a huge amount about life from Eve, and about how to listen, how to be curious, how to be a good person, really. And I think that must have been how she was with her subjects. I was only as an adult, I was only a subject to her once when I was 16. She did a photo shoot in her apartment. There was a skylight in the stairwell. It was really beautiful natural light, and you may have seen the picture of me when I was about 16. That
Oh
Eve.
yeah, that's why I'm looking around here. I have that book somewhere, and I thought I had it in here. I was going to flash it.
Okay.
Flash. It's oh, I wish I
I
had
think
it
it's
in this
exactly
room.
that.
Um,
I may have it too. Let me see if I've got it. I think I've got it.
okay, actually, I'm going to look too.
I
We'll
think
we'll both go on a scavenger hunt. I think it's in my other room. Do you
retrospect.
have it?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
in retrospect. I tell you, that is the gold mine book.
Yes, it's a beautiful book, and we're here we go.
Yep.
There we go.
Yay! See, I feel like I know you because I have looked at that picture for years, and I saw young Michael, and of course, she brought out you. You
Yeah,
were,
I
yeah.
probably knew me, but also because she knew how to give me space in that moment to just be natural, and to be who I was. That it wasn't forced. It was just a very natural interaction.
Hmm.
And I think that's a huge part of why Eve was able to get the photographs that she was, and to genuinely show something real of that person, was her genuine compassion and curiosity.
Yep, that was her gift. She had, a one of a kind gift, and
Mm-hmm.
she had that way of letting a person be. Like she used to say, I just let people give me what they wanted to give me. But they obviously wanted to give her their innermost self.
Mm,
And what you're describing evidently is how everybody felt. They felt seen
mm.
and also not judged.
Yeah,
And so they could just let it let it out. And
exactly.
honestly, I mean, I don't know if there's that many photographers that have that depth that are. I think the judgmental part is a really interesting bit that you said of that.
Mm.
That so people don't feel like if they let out themselves. I think about Marilyn had a session with Philippe Halls,
Oh yeah, Houseman.
and the Halsman, yes, thank you, the jumping ones.
Yeah, yeah.
And his gimmick was, well, and he told her this. He said, I have people jump because you can't uh, pretend when you're jumping. Your real self comes out.
Mm,
Marilyn freaked out. In fact, he couldn't get her to jump. He had to jump with her. And finally, after a few times jumping together, she does some, but she is just like tight fisted. And, her smile is just really, really, she's not, Marilyn did not feel comfortable letting herself out with him.
mm.
And, and in fact, him saying, yeah, this will bring out your real you was the worst thing he could have possibly said.
Yeah,
So that's why it's such a miracle, what she was able to do with Eve. And
yeah.
Eve, to her credit, realized what she was getting from Marilyn. That
Mm.
this person. She, in other words, she appreciated Marilyn, and that's why I love the title. You know, that when she had an appreciation, I felt like it was their bond, and
Yes,
what she promised is that I will show the world you so they could appreciate you.
exactly. No, I think it really comes through the kind of care that Eve had for Monroe. And I think a lot of people perhaps didn't understand Monroe, but I feel like perhaps Eve took the time to get to know her and to really understand what was under the exterior that she presented to the world. And I think that's when she really started to feel close to her and to feel care for her. And as you said, you know, she wrote the book as an appreciation, a genuine kind of love for Monroe.
Yeah, yeah. It was it was really a beautiful thing, and that's why the writing of this was such an emotional thing, but because these two women gave so much to each other, and just to see that and write about it and recognize that that we have relationships like that in our life. There's a lot of times once in a lifetime, or you know, just when we are able to really connect. Those are rare, precious
Mm-hmm.
moments.
Yes,
And how wonderful that Eve had a career of people giving that. I wonder if that exhausted her. You know, it seems a bit of a lightning rod for emotion.
I think it was a bit of. I think she really fed off it. I think there was times when it was tired because there was a lot of travel and you know there was balancing family life and work. And I think that she found challenging. And emotionally kind of she felt pulled in both directions. But I think when she was with people, I think because she described it, when she was in her 80s, she went and back and did a story in Cuba and actually found a woman that she photographed in the 50s.
Juana.
Yeah, Juana, that's right. Yeah, yeah. And she said to me like she felt like she was like 40 years younger again. As soon as she was back on the trail and she was looking for Juana and she went there and she was photographing, she just felt this energy come through her. So I think for her, it was the passion kind of motivated her and gave her energy. So
Well, she was extraordinary. And she didn't stop photographing until she was well into her 80s.
that
Is that
was
right?
that was the last assignment she did. I think she was like 85. That was yeah. So it
Good.
absolutely. She said I planned on a what was it? She said I I'm butchering her quote, but she said I planned on a long career because she started when she was like in her late 30s, early 40s, and but she knew that if she kept in good health, she could carry on doing it for a long time. And it
Yes.
was until her 70s that she had her first solo exhibition. Um, what was the
She
first?
was 68 and she had it at the Brooklyn Museum.
That's right. That's right.
I know because I was 68 at the Brooklyn Museum and I was in tears, you know. I was
Oh
like, I
wow!
feel you, Eve. You had to wait a long time, and I've waited a long time to write this book.
Oh
And
my
I
God!
so totally felt it.
It's amazing. Just the care you've taken over the book and the depth of research. You know, I was constantly astounded. Could you tell me perhaps like what was the hardest thing about writing this book?
Hmm. Um, Actually, it wasn't hard. It was just really emotional.
Mm.
Because, like I said, I just let them get in my ear. I was hearing them, and you know, it was when I started out the book. It was not flowing as well. It was about I don't know 60 pages in or so. My agent was on here; she would know because she read these early drafts, and I had accidentally written a sentence. Excuse me. That was she was talking about Marilyn, and instead of saying she did this or that, she said you did this or that.
Mm.
And I looked back and went, wait, she's talking to Marilyn. And I thought, I really hate gimmicks. I did not want to make this a second person book. But when I realized it was Eve
Mm.
um, talking to Marilyn and it's really her love letter to Marilyn, is when it came, it just came. It was work because, you know, there was a lot to know. The
Mm.
hardest thing, honestly, the hardest thing was knowing all that Eve did and trying to weave in her goings on in her life and her huge career with what was going on with her and Marilyn.
Hmm.
Because she wasn't just sitting there photographing Marilyn, she was taking the pulse of America and the world.
Hmm.
And so just trying to keep up with Eve was the hardest thing.
We did an
Um,
amazing job, and that's what I love, that you managed to weave in Eve's relationship with Monroe amongst all the other stories that she was doing at the time, like McCarthy, the birth story that she did, Life for Life magazine, Malcolm X. You weaved in so much of Eve's career and her life. It was just amazing.
well, it was fun because I used her photographs, the ones that really spoke to me. And I'm like, oh, when did she do that? How could I weave that in? And
Mm.
it fit. It's sort of like doing a puzzle. I had all these pieces and had to figure out how to make them tell a story, fit to a story.
Well, you did a wonderful job, and it's great to see the Los Angeles Times review that you had today. They loved the book, so
That
well
was
deserved,
huge.
and I'm sure it's the first of many great reviews. So
Well, thanks.
I could talk for hours, but I know you've got a busy day today. 'Cause this is the launch day of your book. Um, but maybe
It's,
we end by if there's one thing that you'd like readers to take away from the book, what would you say that is?
oh my gosh. Uh, uh, that's hard because there's the book is like this huge panoply of things to me. But I think to to let out your true self. If you were true to yourself, um, that is when you're brilliant. And
Mm,
Eve and Marilyn were lucky that they found each other that let them totally discover the best in them. And
mm,
that is when you're at your best, when there's two of you
mm.
letting out your best of yourself.
That's beautiful. That's really wonderful. Thank you. No, that really hits home, and that really feels, it resonates with me, because that's something that I very much felt in Eve's presence, and something that I learned from Eve. So
Oh, I bet you did. Lucky you.
oh,
Lucky, lucky.
I'm really lucky to have met you, and to the fact that you've written this wonderful book. So I really hope that we were talking earlier about meeting up in Europe. I really hope we can do that. I'm sure we can make that.
Yeah, let's
Thank you.
let's do that.
That'd be wonderful.
And let's do some more of these chats.
Yes.
Because there's more to say.
Oh
And
yeah.
I have more questions, Michael.
Oh great.
So,
Please do.
so
Talk about. There's so many details in the book that just make it amazing. So anyone who's watching, who's a fan of Eve's or a fan of Monroe or both, or anyone, even if you're not a fan of either of those, but you want to read a good novel, go ahead and get Lynn's novel. You won't be disappointed. It's a really beautiful book. So
thank you. And check out Eve's amazing photos if you haven't already. And one quick note about that. You know, not everybody is aware of Eve, and I am so glad for this book to if I open anybody to knowing her, I'm very happy for that because
thank
she's amazing.
oh
She's worth knowing.
thank you. That's wonderful, and I'm really excited that your book is doing that, and in the most genuine way, that you really have taken the time to understand Eve, and that your book is a true reflection of what she was about. So I'm really excited for it to be out there in the world, and I want as many people to be able to read it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we will pick this up again.
Yeah.
Just make sure you save this so we can.
Yes.
I have no idea how you do that. If people only knew how hard it was for
No,
Michael and I to get on here.
I do know how to do that, because I did an Instagram live by myself once, and it saves it, because I did it from Eve's account, so it saves it. And I will post this probably tomorrow on Eve's account, so people can watch it again. And I'll make it shareable so you can share it on yours as well.
Great, great. Well, thank you
Thank you,
so
Lynn.
much.
Your
And thanks
launch
to
day.
everybody who joined us
Yeah, thank you,
in
everyone.
our inaugural bumble.
Yeah,
No, it turned out good, Michael.
comments and
Well,
questions. Have a great rest of your launch day.
thank
Congratulations.
you.
And
Thank
look
you.
forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.